Okay, welcome all. This is going to be more. I'd like this to be more like a conversation rather than like a lecture or anything like that. But this is just an idea to discuss together some of the things that I've learned in my getting into tech, and try to share some thoughts and ideas on how to get there easier, right? So, well, who am I? This is my picture. Now that you can see my video, I'm from Spain, Granada, the south of Spain. I survived 2 Canada winters at this point, so I'm confident that I can survive a few more. I'm a software engineer at Google. I'm working in the Chrome team, in the GPU team, so making some of the things in the web work. Specifically, I'm working in Canvas, and currently I'm working in a project to make more efficient web GPU and WebGL on the web. Previously, I've worked at HP in a color and imaging team, and I also work at Splash Damage, a London-based game studio, working in Gears of War and Dirty Bomb. But first, some of you that not many have joined from the participants, but I hope that the project is going well. I hope that you take this as a break, and also if you're in other kind of situation where you're coding, usually taking breaks, at least for me, is when I've been able to solve so many bugs and challenging things. So yeah, the idea would be to do this a conversation. So I will stop for questions. Please feel free to turn your microphone off and ask a question or write them in the workshop chat. I have like 5 mind slates with topics. I have some bonus slides at the end, but so please feel free to ask questions along the way. So the first of all is all roads lead to Rome, right? So this is in Latin when this sentence was first time said. So I just wanted to mention this because like one may think that you need to be studying computer science in MIT or in the best university in your country to be able to get into a high-tech company. So that is not true. I think there are lots of ways to take to the same place. I would even say that there are different destinations. There is not only that is one Rome, right? But in this sense, like for instance, in my experience, I've worked with colleagues that they were physics students, maths, even one that studied just criminology, and on their own time they studied some programming. And even in my office here, in the Google office in Montreal, there has been an employee that he had no degree at all. He just studied on his own about AI, and he's been working on Google Brain for a while. So you don't need. There are so many myths about getting into a tech company, right? And as I would say, there is more than one Rome. So it's not only that you can and should end up working at Google or Facebook or any other big company. So there are so many things that you could do in tech. So about that, I'd like to bust some other myth. Here I don't see that many people at this point in the room. So if you have any question at any point, I will repeat that. Please stop me, right? But I just wanted to talk about some myths that may be about working at a computer science company at Google, for instance. Like you have to be all the time programming on your spare time. Since a long time, I'm not coding outside work because maybe you have a busy life. Maybe you have to work outside your studies or whatever, right? So it's not that if you're not programming all the time, you cannot get a job at a big company or you cannot have a meaningful career in tech. It's not that like other people would say that you need to have lots of side projects. That's not true either. I mean, you have to be practical about this. Like the people here, like working on a hackathon, like that's a project that you can add to your portfolio, to your GitHub account, to whatever, right? So, or projects that you do in university. Be smart about those projects and try to make them something that you would be proud to share. And then also you can get involved into real projects that are on the web. There's a lot of open source projects like Chromium, where I'm working inside Chrome. Chromium is an open source project, so you could try to solve a bug that Chrome may have. Um, some other myths I have here, like you will only work with computers. That is so not true. Software engineering, I think, is a lot about as well social skills. So you have to work with people, you have to meet people. And hackathons is a great way to do that as well. So, uh, and one last myth I wanted to mention here, that you need to know at least 5 programming languages. And I put 5 to put a number. And this is please, don't list every programming language that you've ever touched on your CV. I did that in my first CV that I wanted to submit to a company, because in my career, in my university, every 2 subjects we will change programming language. So I will end up like with 10 programming languages that I've had some experience with them. That doesn't make sense, and you don't need that. So it's not that you have to be like a mythical programmer, or no. Anyone can learn the skills needed to be a software engineer, I think. One thing that so up to this point, if there are any questions, feel free to write them down and shout them, or whatever you feel more confident. I see some people writing, so I will hold for a
I had a
second.
question. I
Okay,
had a
cool.
question. How often do you work alone as opposed to in teams? Like, what's the how often do you work like alone on a project? And did that change with the quarantine and all that?
Okay, that's nice. So one thing that I've done as well, some I work in C++, so that is the language I'm more confident with, and I've done some practical tips about C++, and one of the tips I think is that all the code that we write, and I think it applies to I see your Python avatar, I think it applies to everything. Like, code is more time read than written, and code is not only meant for computers, but also for people. So even when you're writing a piece of code that is going to be shared with more people at some point in the future, right? You're still working with people, even though you're writing code for your own, in your own repo or whatever. So I know this is a very ambiguous answer, but I think that's important, that even the part that could be considered like working alone, like I'm working on this piece of code, I'm doing a refactor here, and I'm trying to optimize this method, someone will end up reading that. Even you, in like 3 months from now, you're not the same person that you're now. But yeah, like going more concretely to your question, like, so the project I'm working on, Chrome, it's developed by lots of people, and like currently as well, Chromium is being used like in Edge, and so there are other browsers using the same technology that we are developing. So, and the project I'm working on faces with WebGL and WebGPU teams. So I have to work with other people, like always, even working from home, I have to work with other people. In my team, we are doing daily things, like we connect for a while with our webcams, and we just have the rule in these meetings that we cannot talk about work. So it's just to share things like you will do in a real office. So yeah, with COVID, I'm working a lot from home, which is sad. I miss the people, and I miss the office. But yeah, that's what we have to do now to keep everyone safe, right? So yeah, I don't know if that answers a bit your question, but feel free to follow up on that.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks. That answered
cool.
it. Yeah, thanks.
So, and regarding that, actually, like the community side of software engineer, like I have a slide thinking about it takes a village. Like, you have to meet people. We all have to meet people while working in software engineer, because and hackathons, conferences, Twitter, or even just watch YouTube videos from conferences that you would like to attend and you cannot, and just send an email to the speaker if you have a question. I did that to Alexei Alessandrescu, I think is his name. Like, he's been at Amazon, in so many companies about C++, and he answered right away. Like 3 emails I sent him in different points. So I know it's scary to write an email to a stranger that you have just seen a talk from, but do so. Like, it's the only way to meet people. Just trying to ask them to, please, I have this doubt of what you've been talking about. And I think it's very important, this aspect of talking to people, and because we end up learning from others. Like, I think that the best things I know about software engineer, like a technical field, I've learned it directly from other people. So I would say find a mentor. and try to find explicitly some people that you trust that are doing the path that you would like to do, maybe, or you're not sure, but you'd like to explore. And probably in the future, you can be a mentor. Like, yes. So I think this is very, very important. Yes. I will stress this later again, but and if you don't know how to find a mentor, you can send me an email. So feel free to send email to people that you find on the internet. If you trust them, of course, like be safe. Next thing I wanted to share like some high level tips of things that I've tried to do along the years. So I think aim properly. I have a good friend that now is in the final steps of interviewing in a big tech company, and like she has been studied like 3 different careers. Like at the end of the first year, she would quit and start a different career. Uh, I think that's okay. That is perfectly valid. She's learned a lot throughout the way, and she's been aiming properly at different things she was convinced she wanted to do. And I think that is very critical. Like, be sure what you want to try to do, and be good at failing fast. I would say, like, I want to try to do this. This is what I believe into. I'd like to work at Google. I don't know. I like to work at Facebook, at a small company that is in my country. Like, I want to work there. And then try to know what you need to know in order to work there. Again, meet people, ask people that already work there, and try to learn the needed skills for that. Like at this point, when I prepared these bullet points, I wanted to get into the game industry. So I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an engine programmer. So I started to learn things about just that part of being an engine programmer, not about gameplay or other things that I was maybe interested into as well. Then get experience on that. Try to collaborate with projects about that. Go to, like, in my case, I went to do some game jams to make small games over a weekend and try to get some experience about that. Then this is a part that please be humble, but please prove the things and show off of the things that you know and you've done. I think this is important because sometimes, like, I started doing some C++ talks a while ago. I don't think I was ready to give a C++ talk, but just try to do it, learn enough, and do this extra step of trying to speak in front of people, sharing the things that you've learned along the way. And also do a good CV. Create your own portfolio, a website that speaks about you. If you do projects, record them and upload them to YouTube. Like do a showcase of the things that you know how to do. Because if you don't show them, nobody will see them. It's a bit silly, but I think this is important. Like for me, this was a very critical point. I was very shy of sharing anything I could do. Then I would say that chance is a huge factor for anything in life. So it's okay to fail. I will say that in the next slide, but you need luck to succeed in so many things in life. So it's okay to fail and try it again and try it again until you have, like, if you do everything okay, you still can fail. So it's not, oh, I didn't do this well enough. Oh, I'm not good enough. No, maybe you were just unlucky. So, and the last point I wanted to mention in this, like, 6th point, please be a nice human being. I think this is way more important than actually any of the other things. If you're a nice human being, it's easier for you to find a mentor. It will be easier for you to have other people willing to teach you stuff. And here there is a question. So I've done a lot of small programs games, but I've never really finished a bigger scale project. How would you recommend finding the motivation to keep going with a project and not get bored or less motivated with it? That is great. I would say, please do things that you find fun to work on. And like for a while, I've been trying to use Vulkan, that is a very low level programming language for graphics. But I struggle a lot because it's a big investment to do this. So I would say, yes, go for small programs and games. That's okay. And I would recommend, like, a good way to find motivation for doing these things is share the things that you're doing along the way as you are doing them. don't wait until this is done and it's perfect and amazing and the best thing ever. No, share your experience your way. Like we've all started with little things, so if you share it with other people, even if it is small, you will have like accountability, right? Because you will have some friends asking you, "Oh, how's it going?" So I think community is very important here as well. Like, don't be afraid to share your ongoing projects on GitHub and try to tell again a friend, "Hey, I'm working on this thing that I'm writing in Python. Could you check out the code?" Just ask for someone else to review your code. Like, I don't know, try to get other people as well on board, like to know that you're working on something. And if you get bored and you stop working on that, it's okay. Just stop working on that and find a new thing that you will be happy to explore, to learn. Uh, like, so for games, having played for playtests or stuff like that, yeah, that would be a great thing. Like, hey, please check out this prototype I'm working on. Or just create your YouTube channel and upload the things that you're, even if it's in progress, and you can think to upload several videos, like this is prototype, this is version 1 with some textures. For games, I would particularly suggest doing game jams, because it's like a hackathon, but it's just about making a game. I'm particularly happy about the hackathon you're organizing, because it has like a good meaning behind the project that people are working on. But yes, game jams are great, are fun, and you can also write meaningful games that can tell something deeper to the player. So, but yeah, find people to play test, or even find someone to review your code. I think this is very valuable when you are aware that other human beings are going to read your code. And I know we can, and if one can get sensitive about, because this is like our tiny babies that we are making. So it's okay to share them. I hope that answers. If not, Fred, just come back with a follow-up thing here. Um, so, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Someone
No,
was
don't worry.
muted.
So now I wanted to share like briefly about what has been my experience and how. So first of all, I studied when I studied this, it was not called bachelor plus master in science or whatever. It was engineering. So it was a 5-year degree. It would be the equivalent of that. So I studied that in my hometown, and with a focus on data structure, algorithms, and 3D graphics, because I wanted the graphics part of it. I was very enthusiastic about that. Then I stopped working in tech, and I just traveled and worked in Italy and Switzerland. Well, it was kind of tech related, but not really tech. So I just spent 3 years living between Italy and Switzerland. I studied some philosophy and sociology in these places, and I did some 3D modeling, IT management. So just something very far to what I would really dream of making in computer. So I did that. It was an amazing experience, but it was like an off-site trip. Then I wanted to get back to programming, so I did a Master of Science in Computer Games specifically. So this is the part of aiming, right? Like I want to work in games, so do something specific for games. In this particular master was very cool because an internship was part expected of the master. Internships are great, and then I tried to be practical as well with the projects I did during this master, because all the projects at the end ended up in my GitHub account, in my portfolio. And every time that I would do a project, I would, so like, for instance, the first project, professor said to us, you can do a car game, a game with cars, to program it and all the fun with that. Or a low-level thing, opening a format, a file, OpenGex, it's called an open source. It was a file for data for games, and decode the data and encode it again. So I went for the one that maybe it was not that fun to work at, but it was the thing that I really wanted to do afterwards. So, and then it's a good project that I have on my portfolio. So, yes, Hal, I will follow up on that question. Well, I will answer that right away. So, the question is, how do you suggest finding an aim if you don't know what you want to do specifically in tech? So I would suggest talk to people. I think that's the best thing, is to know, if you don't know what you want to do, you have to know first what could you do in tech. Like, you could work, like, for instance, in my case, why I studied computer science. Well, I studied computer science because I wanted to study maths, but kind of my parents said, do something more useful. So I ended up studying computer science, which I'm very happy about. Um, but yeah, in my case, it was like I liked games, so I wanted to work with games. But I think that the only real way to know what do you want to do is by knowing what things are there to do. Uh, like there is a talk that someone at Google is giving at a hackathon. So listen to the talk, ask them questions, try to figure out what it is to work at Google. So then you can know if you like working at Google or not. Or maybe if there is some projects that, like, you like security, I don't know. So maybe there are some open source projects on the web or places where you can collaborate and just try things. Uh, so I think that's the part of being good at failing fast. Like, try to do something. If you're not sure, there are three things that you may be sort of interested to. Um, so just explore them, maybe one by one. Just try to ask the people in those fields. Let's see what they like about what they're doing. And then try to do something similar and see if you like it or not. Like in my case, I would mention that, and then I want to be sure that I answered your question the way you expected. Like, then I worked in the game industry for 2 years. It was very fun, but I realized that there was something, at least for me, missing there, which is okay. So I learned a lot throughout the way, and then I started doing other things. How do you want any further thing for your answer, for your question? Uh, Feel free to follow up if you want more. Uh, so, Fred, I will get with your question later. I want to be sure that help. Okay, great help. So I can say something about. So the Fred's question is, I don't know if you are going to talk about game dev more in particular, but what do you think about using game engines like Unity or such as opposed to coding a game from scratch? So I would say, like, uh, what would you be more passionate about? Like, would you like just do you like the part of just making a game, like of having people playing the game that you're making, telling a story, making people have fun for a while? So I think it's great to use game engines like Unity or Unreal Engine or any other engine, because those engines are for that. Like, and you can tune up the game engine if you want. Do you want to be like an engine programmer? Like, it's what I wanted to be. So then probably instead of using a game engine to make a game, you could also just change things of a game engine. So just do some modifications to the engine itself if you find the way. So, or do something from scratch. So if you do something from scratch, you will learn so much more. You will have so much freedom, but you will take more time to do something. I think it depends more of what do you want to do with that experience that you're going to invest time and energy into, right? And also, if you find it fun. So if you find fun doing the things from scratch, go for it, because maybe that's a meaning that is something that you like about that process. Uh, so coding a game from scratch. So the question of Fred is that I've only used game engines. How would I approach coding a game from scratch? So probably what you have to do is to learn what does a game engine entitles, like what are the components of a game engine. I don't have on the top of my mind any. There are some websites that I checked on the time with explanation of this. I would suggest you just search those things. If you want, just write me an email. I can suggest it later. I have actually there are some books that I'm reading right now just for fun about game engine development, because I like that. I still like that. So yeah, I think that's a good way. Also, it would be to start a game from scratch. I would suggest start very small, very, 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 very small. Do something that is small, 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 small. Like in my first degree in computer science, I coded a small game in assembly code. It was a project that we had to do something with assembly code, and I said, why not make a game? So I did make a game, uh, and it was hard to make every single thing, just thinking about doing everything from scratch. But it was I liked it, and it worked, and it was a small game. It had only two levels because every level I had to hard code it into, or yes, so it was fun, but I would suggest to start very, very small. So it was a game bigger, or remake a game, even a small game. Anyway, so cool. So I'm going back to the slides. So I work in the game industry for 2 years, and I tried to interview at Google without an offer. Uh, it was not fun to be rejected, but anyway, so I was rejected. Then I worked at HP for 2 years because at the moment I interviewed at Google, I said, well, but I can interview to other companies as well. So I worked at HP. It was very fun. Uh, it was a very good project specifically. And then I interviewed again at Google. I got an offer, and I said no to Google because I had, for some personal reasons, I couldn't move at that point. But then they called me again in a year saying, oh, but we want to extend you the offer again. And I say, well, now yes, I want to join. So I end up joining Google, and I'm very happy working with C++ and graphics in Chrome. So yeah, that's a bit how was my experience. So thank you for for being here. Uh, so yeah, these are the things like for me were kind of important in thinking about what was about my career, what I learned along the way. Um, I'm more than happy to answer to any more question about this. I have 4 more slides, bonus slides of other things I wanted to mention, but maybe a bit out of scope. But uh, yeah, yeah, I think this is, I would say that for me, but it is my experience. This part of aiming of what you want to use. So what do you want to do in life? What do you want to do in a career? Is very hard. It is very hard. Like Hal was asking, like how do you find what do you really want to do in tech? Because tech is kind of infinite. Like everything can be done in tech in a sense. Like you could even, and tech is not only about programming. There are other roles, and also in game industry, and as instance, tech is not only about coding. Like there are producers, there are managers, there are other things that can be important in tech as well. Like in the process of driving a project, of connecting people. I don't know. So yeah, I would say just explore, because I think the most important thing is try things and try to explore things and experiment and find people that have done the things that you may like to do. Fred is asking what other programming languages do I use. So particularly in my team, I have to write some JavaScript tests because at the end the web is done with HTML and JavaScript. So I have to write tests for that. And basically, I'm in C++ world. That's basically the tool I use all the time, and that I got more expertise with. I know a bit of Python, and I've worked with Java as well. But actually, in my, like, this is about aiming, right? I like the kind of problems that tend to be used with C++. So that's kind of the language that I have more expertise with, because it's the one that I would like to use as well in the future. So, like, if I ever think changing team at Google, like, I would like to search teams with C++. That is kind of the things that drives me a bit, in particular in my field. Uh, what would you say is the most useful language in the domain? I don't know, so there are so many things. So there could be the question to define what does it mean to be useful. What is an useful language like? Because maybe you need a language that has enough libraries there for you in order to easily create a project, or you want a language that is easier to maintain, or you want a language that, because everything, the meaning of useful is very relative. I do think that in games, C++ is good because it has a good balance of, like, low level. You can go deep down the rabbit hole if you want and make things performant explicit in that area, while you can as well go a bit higher level. particularly with the modern C++, that is stealing things from other languages like Python. So it's been more like easier to read and easier to follow a code. So I'm very biased toward C++. I have to that's I should have added that as a warning because I like C++ and I've used it for a long time. Yeah, I'm not in grade to define useful language in any domain. I would say. In Chrome, it's turning out to be it's very nice that Chrome is in C++ because, like in the part I'm working with, that is more about like working with the GPU and going low level. It's important that you're able to access how deeper parts of how the memory is there and where the memory explicitly stored in the GPU, CPU, and how do you and to encapsulate all that. So I think C++ is good. Yeah. I hope that answers. So, so I have a couple of bonus slides like regarding like some CV tips. I don't know what kind of the career you will be, but I can share some tips about CVs or even some tips about like even interviews at companies like Google, like very high level tips. It's not going to be a long talk about that. So I don't know, or if in all of that you are here, like if there is anything that you would like to know more about, or even about my particular day-to-day work, or about working in games because I've been working there as well. Or if you have any other question, feel free to ask, even though it's not related to these 5 points I said there. So I will take advantage of this moment and I will just go to the next bonus slide to share some things. Let's see. There are some typing there in the chat. Yeah, and I would insist here as well because I like that part, like the part of the community and being nice, and how social skills are important and how hard these things are to develop and how sometimes can be challenging to go out of, we can be shy or we can feel that we are not enough to be able to talk to someone else. So there is the question of how do you apply for an internship? Do you just contact a company directly? That depends on the company. Like I can share completely three experiences, like the ones that I'm more close to. Like at Google is just applying to a job opening called Internship in the website. So you can just go to search Google Jobs and find the internship and just apply. So yeah, other companies like HP, where I was working there, they would do like some year events where they would accept internships. So they would send notifications to universities for them to know. So they would communicate these things through universities. And the splash damage company I work for, they had as well an opening on their website, like internship of this. That actually in splash damage, they didn't have an internship of the thing I wanted to do. They had a gameplay internship, but I wanted to do an engine programmer, a core tech is what they call it there, internship. So I just apply, saying it very clearly there that I do want my internship to be about this. And they were happy about that. And I got the internship about the thing I wanted to do. Here, I would suggest that is it part of the community, and I think Twitter is very useful for that, and writing emails to the people. Like if you want to do an internship, let's say there is a game studio here in Montreal, but it's a small studio that you want to work with, and you're not sure if they have internships or not. Contact the company, send them an email, tell them, look, I'm very passionate about what you're doing. I want to work with you because at the end, the internship is about working there for a limited time. So I think companies, I think they should be happier. I have just hosted an intern at Google actually. And I think it's a win-win for everybody. Like for the one doing the internship, it's an easier process to go through and to get the internship. So for Google, for instance, it's easier to get an internship at a full-time position straight away. And once you are in the internship, first, you learn firsthand what does it mean to work at a company. So you can say, well, I don't like this or I like it. Then you will learn skills that it will make it way easier for you to then convert to a full-time employee. And you're getting paid in the way. So it's not that. Money is nice as well. Sometimes it's needed. So yeah, I think internships. If all of you that are still in university, try to do an internship and just explore the things that you would like to do and check the websites of the companies if they have position for that. And if not, just throw emails randomly to people that work there. I think that is very useful to just ask people. And the worst case, they will not reply, and that's okay. So you lose nothing without sending the email, I would say. Going to check something. Yes, my bonus slide about internship was just 6 times saying please do an internship. So so usually internships, that's the only counter side about internship. Usually they require that you are in a university degree at the moment. So yeah, I'm not sure if there are internships that can be done without being in university. Like I don't know about that honestly at Google how does it work. Like I know of this employee that we had here. Like I knew him personally because I had lunch with him several times at the office when we used to have an office like pre-COVID time. And he had not even a superior degree of school degree in Spain. So he was originally from Spain, but he managed to get like a special internship that they had in AI in Google Brain. So there has to be a way to do that. I guess that you have to demonstrate, because it's like what I was saying with the Rome map, and there are shorter and longer paths. I do think that a computer science degree or a university degree can make the path shorter up to get to where you want to arrive. And sometimes you have to make your own way. So yeah, I don't know. If you can do a university degree, I think it's good to do them. And then from there, so I know, like here in Canada, I know like the intern I had was from the University of Waterloo, I think, and I was impressed that in their program, it's a 5 years Bachelor of Science, I think, but they have like 6 internship embedded on the system. So you have to do 6 internship to get that degree. You can do research projects if you want. So I think that is very nice to try to find, if possible, a place where it encourages you to do internships. Even there are, like in Spain, we have other programs that are not through university, but it's like more, they teach you the skill to succeed on a job. So yeah, I suggest you to explore that more. Yeah, don't worry. So if any other question, I can go through to some tips about CVs if you want. Like I know that like writing a CV is something that you do when you start to apply for maybe to jobs, but maybe also for internship this is needed. This is very important, like to showcase what you've done and what you know to do. So yeah, I think this is, I just wanted to give a few very quick tips that I thought these days. Like, yeah, don't list every single programming language you've used. That at least for me, when I see someone that has on their CV like has 1 year experience, that you can see about what they've written in the experience, they've been just 1-2 years programming at tops. So they weren't programming before that, and they know like 10 programming languages. It's hard that they know 10 programming languages, and I don't know. Yes, please don't list every single programming language that you've used, and not even every single tool you've used. I think it's more important to say, look, I'm proficient at C++ and I have an intermediate level in Python, rather than just have a list of 10 programming languages. Have your CV proofread by someone else. So it's like code reviews. Because I think one thing that we tend to forget while writing code is that there are human beings that are going to read the code, not only the machine. And CVs is going to be read by human beings. So please be sure that another human being other than you has seen what you've written. Because when we review things that we've written, code or not code, we tend to skip things that were not that important. And we thought, because we know what we wanted to say. When you have a structure, please be consistent. Like if you're putting a dot at the end of a sentence, put it in every sentence. Pay attention to detail. So be careful with having not caps after a dot. Just try to respect that. Like there is a pun, obviously, at having the mistakes there that I'm talking about. Then when you try to write your achievements, things you've done, be explicit about what you've done and add some metrics to that. Like I gave a talk at Curious Hacks about career at tech, attended by I just put the number of participants in the Curious Hacks. So be explicit about what you did and be short sentences. Like I developed and designed a project, a game from scratch. So you put that sentence, and maybe if you can put a link to that thing, an artifact, a concrete thing that people will look at and say, oh, it's true, they make a game. And it has to look nice, but it needs great content too. So it's more important what you're talking about, but it has to look nice. And okay, I've been talking for a while, so are there any more questions there? Like things that someone, even personal question, like, look, like Hal was asking, how do you suggest finding a name if you don't know what, like, if you are like, I'd like to know what things are to done in tech, or I'm doubting between this and that. So feel free to ask by written if you want, or as well, my email is on the slide. So feel free as well to send me an email if you want. Yeah, like this talk also is try to. I'm here for you, so just feel free to ask whatever you want. Yeah, so I have another 2 more slides. Like one is very silly and one is about interviewing tips. That I don't know at what point you will be willing to have an internship, because for internship you also get interviewed, right? So I just wanted to, if you want, I can share some tips here as well. These are very high level things, but interviewers cannot read your mind. So yes, don't forget that the people you're interviewing with, they want to interview you as a human being as well, not only as a coding machine. Because they are usually, when a company or a person hires someone else, is to work with them. So that implies that they are hiring you as a human, as a person, right? Not only your mind. So an interview cannot read that. So you have to speak up, to talk what you're thinking, what you're doing. Then the interviews usually they are not about. So it's not about cracking the problem. So finding the right solution for a problem. Just okay, this is the perfect way to codify this issue, to solve this challenge. It's also about the trip, about the thinking process that you're putting into solving a problem. So yeah, it's not about. So if you finish an interview and you did not solve everything, it's okay, because maybe it was not about solving it. It was about how do you think the process of solving it. Have fun during the interview. I think that's always nice. I would suggest to follow a structure, because usually interviews, they are time limited. Like they can be 45 minutes, 1 hour. So you have to be sure that you're not wasting time. So it's sadly doing interviews is a skill. So yeah, I would suggest to follow like a small structure, like play with the problem, try to understand the problem, voice out explicitly how you plan to solve it before you start coding, because the interviewer is there with you. It's not to test you. And if you're doing a job interview and it's all about finding the smart solution for something, maybe it's not a nice place to work there anyway. So yeah. And yeah, so then code it and test it. And of course you have to study for this interview as well. So think about it's kind of an exam. It's sad, but it's condensing in a limited amount of time to evaluate you as a colleague. So it's sad, but it's how sadly it works. I would suggest you to create a group of mock interviews with your friends. Like, this is about community again. If you have other friends that start in university or in the middle of university, and you know other people that will try to do interviews as well, do interviews to each other. Learn to evaluate other people as well. So have fun in the process. I think that's nice. And one tip that I was given in my last on-site interview with Google, like they said to me to go to the toilet between each interview. It may sound silly, but I mean, right now everything is done virtually. But when these 5 interviews were on a row, face to face with other human beings, and you're going from interview to interview, one after the other, there is a lot of pressure in doing an interview, and it's okay to feel the pressure. So I did that. Between every single interview, I said, "Can I go to the toilet a second?" And I went just 1 minute, just to be alone, just to look myself at the mirror, just to have a second of quietness, and that was very helpful to get refreshed for the next interview. So yeah, uh, yeah. Then I have a small rant about programming, software engineering, and computer science, but. I saw Hal was writing something earlier. Like, if there are any question, please feel free uh, to drop it down in the chat. More than happy to, and to give other kind of particular tips. If someone says to me, "Look, I'd like to work there," and I will try to help the best way I can. So, okay. So yeah, the final bonus slide I want. Okay, someone is writing down. Then I will just, because I find this funny, and sometimes I think people get confused about what does programming mean and what is software engineering and what is computer science. So I just find funny talking about these things. Uh, so the press for technical questions. So they're asking about explaining more about like steps for the process, like concrete examples of okay. So okay, so basically this will be like, think about that you have, so like at least in the case at Google, without being able to tell you like real interviews questions that I would use, because if people know the question that one would ask, then it defeats the purpose of the question. But like, so imagine to solve small, like there are some katas that you can do online. So like trying to solve small problems of coding challenges. So they can be that type of style, like write a small method that I will make up something that is not a real case, but that sort an array, or try to find repeated values in an array. How would you do that? Or count the bits that are, because in the computer you can have or bytes can be 1, 0. So count in this integer or in a string, count how many bits are set to 1. So write a method to do that. So there could be possible questions to practice with, like, okay, so how would I solve this problem? And then the thing is that, like, following a structure, like, for example, with finding repeated values in an array. So play with the problem until you understand it. What does it mean, repeated values? Like, what type of values can be there? It's going to be numbers, characters, and try to write down concrete examples. So a string that is an empty array, that it has no numbers. What does it mean to have repeated values on an empty string? Or if an array has all the same value, do I have to give just the first two? Do I give all of those that repeated? So you just play with the problem and try to find a correct solution for the problem. Then once you understood the problem and you have a potential solution, even though it's a brute force solution, there is a moment to try it down and code it. And then to write some tests. Like, actually, if you started the problem, write it down, some example of an empty array, an array with all repeated values, an array with all different values. So you can test those things that you created at the example at the beginning to play with. So it's easier saying it like than doing it, of course. But it's something that you study for and practice for. I don't know if that answers your question regarding the process for technical questions. Like that would okay that would of course that would vary. So this could be like a technical question at Google. Like when I did my technical question for the game studio I work with, so I had a phone screening first. So they were by phone. They would just ask me 20 questions, like about data structure in C++, about. So it was more a knowledge-based test. So I just had to answer the questions, and I don't know if I did all of them right. I did them well enough, so they called me for an on-site interview. And in the on-site interview, I remember vaguely, but they asked like, how would I solve several problems? And it was more a discussion. And they didn't ask me to explicitly write code. Maybe also because it was an internship, but it was more, yeah. So it depends. What I would suggest is that this part of aiming and getting to know where you're going to work at or where would you like to work at. So try to do some research on your own, like to say, okay, so I want to work at Google, so I will figure out what are the questions asked at Google, or I want to work at this game studio I like, or I want to work at this finance company that they make a lot of money, so I want just that. So go there and get to know what they do, because every place is different. Yeah. So yeah, I think we are almost at 2. Uh, well, this is a bit. Yeah, I just feel that I have the slide. I can mention it unless there are any other question. Uh, okay, so well, no, here is just for me. I would say that everything of this goes together. It's not that you have to be. So not because I said I saw some threads on Twitter about people arguing if a computer scientist is more or less than a programmer, is more or less a software engineer, is more or less of. I would say that everything is needed in computer science, and even other that are not that tech specific fields or positions. Uh, but everything is needed. But the only thing that I wanted to mention about these things is that there are problems when you're solving a problem. Like when you're doing a hackathon, I would say that you're just programming. I mean, you have just to solve something that has to work within 24 hours, and you're never going to look again at this code. So it's just a one-shot thing. I just want to do this now, and I will never touch this again, maybe. So that's a part of purely programming something out. So you're just coding that, which is very important. And you will learn lots of things in the process. But if you're going to write something like, let's say, Chrome, that has been around for a while, and it still will be around for a while, and you expect the code base to evolve and to grow with more people and more people working at it, you need to invest more engineering there. You have to work something that you expect to be working for 10 years. So I think it's a different set of skills and things, and you need to be able to program to do that. But there is a good talk about this distinction you can get to YouTube and from the CPPCon of a few years ago of Titus Winters, that he's a software engineer at Google. He talks about this distinction between programming and software engineering. I think is very valuable. And yeah, honestly, I don't know why I put computer science there, but computer science is cool as well, and it's important. And I would say it's a part that can feed every other field here, right? So anyway, these were I got to mention the bonus slides I wanted to mention, but I would say the most important thing, if you would bring out with you something about this time we've talked together, I wish it would be just please try to figure out by talking with people, meeting people, what would you like to do, and find a community, find mentors, and then you can be a mentor of other people. I was very happy. This morning I saw on Twitter there was uh, a software engineer that was asking me question a while ago on Twitter, and I tried to help him out the best way I could. Then I saw this morning a tweet he wrote like other folks are starting to ask him about him being their mentor. That was very good for me because I just spent a few hours answering some questions to him, right? But I feel that I could help him. I help him direct him a bit, and then he can help Solver in the same way. Yeah, so I would say that that is the most important thing here. Like, please find a community and help others in the way. So, yes, if there are more questions there. I will wait because someone is typing, but so asking about a typical workday for me. Um, so for me, as I said, I'm working in Canvas at Chrome. So a workday, it depends on the day, but I usually would try to think out what I really want to do that day. And I probably at the beginning of the week, I would have already think about what do I want to do that week. So I would have to think, okay, this week I would like to do these 2 things, these maximum 3 things. And then I like to start just doing the most challenging things first in the morning. So don't look at the email if I can, because usually nobody's going to. There is nothing that urgent. If it is urgent, they will write me a message or something. So a mail can wait. And for me in the morning, I'm more focused to work. So I like to start doing the most challenging thing I have to do that day. Either it is writing a design doc, a document of the design of the thing I want to then solve, or it is just coding. So at the moment I'm working on, as I said, on something related with WebGPU and WebGL. So there are some parts of that code that I don't truly understand. So the first thing I'm doing these days is just to try to work on that project. Then at the end of the morning, we'll have this think call during these COVID times with my colleagues. So we just chat a while and just see each other and just try to have some nice conversation. Yeah, and the rest of the day, unless there are some meetings, like some things to be discussed with other teams or some colleague needs, like I'm helping a lot some of my colleagues with C++. So if they have a specific question of C++, I do some calls with some of them, like to chat about that. And then I start replying emails if I have to during the afternoon. And yeah, one thing that I'm trying to do is on Fridays, I try to spend some time just learning on my own. So trying to find that I don't do that every day, but I try to do that on Fridays, like to watch some talk that I want to learn about and yeah, I think that's basically my work day. When I was at the office, there were more activities. Like some days we would have a magic tournament, or we would just go to the makerspace in the office to use the wood cutting machine to cut something. I 3D printed a Klein bottle on my free time at the office. So in the office, I had more toys to play with, so to speak, and also more people to have coffees with. And yes, one thing that I'm as well trying to keep every week is just to spend some time having coffees with some other Googlers, some people from Google, from other offices, and that. So try to meet more people as well within Google, because I do think that is one of the most important things. Like, not the networking side of it, like I need to know people because for my next move or whatever. No, but like human interactions are very important, and I like to keep that part of my work day as well. So yeah. Well, as at the moment, I'm specifically working. Well, one thing that we do in my team, we are investing 1 week every month, each one of us, to focus on bug fixing. So that is a different kind of work, but yeah, this is a typical work day for me. So they're asking me which campus do I work at. So right now I work at my home, like everyone else. Joke. So I work in the Montreal office. So there is an office in Montreal, and I used to work there. Yeah. So yeah, it's a cool office that has lots of there are lots of teams there. It's not a huge office. It's not so in Canada there is an office in Waterloo, actually in Kitchener Waterloo, that is bigger. And I'm happy in the size of this company, of this office, sorry. There are some people working at Chrome, DeepMind, Google Brain. There is also Stadia there, like the game studio. Yeah, and it's fun to meet people from other teams as well. It was fun to have lunch with people from other teams. So that's truly something I miss, like the meeting with the people at work. Yeah. Yeah, I see more typing there. So if anyone wants to leave and go back to their project, feel free. And if anyone is then looking at the recording, yes, feel free to write me a tweet or an email or whatever. I don't guarantee I will reply straight away. As I said, I only check the emails at some points on the day. So yeah, give me some time. I'm happy that over the weekend I don't check anything related to work. So yeah, if there are no more questions, okay. So how does the campus system work at Google? Like, does the Montreal team work on Stadia, Canvas, and Chrome, while the Waterloo team works in Google Maps and other products? So it depends. Like that would be the answer for every question. It depends. But like in my particular experience, so currently for the projects I'm working on, I'm working with people in Mountain View and in Paris, and also from Waterloo, and also from the office in Boulder. Boulder is I'm from Spain. I don't know much geography here. Sorry for this North American continent. So there are other offices I daily interact with, people from other campuses. That is specifically for the team I work on because we interact a lot with other teams. I know, for instance, like the Google Brain team that is in my office. They work more among themselves, even though there are other Google Brain other offices where Google Brain is located as well. I yes, I don't know how things are going to change in the post-COVID era if that arrives sometime in the future. But how many works do I work on average? I I will finalize first. I will end first type of question. So yeah, I think it varies very much on the project. I I I think there are some projects that are more self-sufficient and they tend to be more located on a place, but yeah, in my case, it's very sparse among the globe, which I like very much. Although can be challenging for code reviews because if the reviewer is like 16 in a different time zone, you have to wait for them for the review, but it's okay. How many hours do I work on average? I honestly don't know. I have never stopped thinking about it, so it's not something I am worried about. I certainly can say that I'm never going over 40 hours a week for sure. I'm never going over that. Well, I was having an intern the last few months, hosting the intern. So there I spent a bit more time working because she was working from a different time zone actually. So the moments that she had questions, it was outside my usual work time that I like to work. So I would work a bit more during that time because also I felt that if I didn't reply a question, the intern would be hindered by that. So in that moment, I would like to pay more attention to be more present. But yeah, there are days that I don't do 8 hours. Usually I do less than that. Yes, and I would say as well that there is a lot of work. And I would say because that was a part that I put the picture of Newton with the apple in the part of taking a break, because I do think that software engineering programming is not about sitting in front of a keyboard and throwing 8 hours of your time straight and doing nothing else along the way. Like if you go to run in the middle of the day just to get some oxygen, just to breathe a bit, that can help you to work. So if you have a coffee with a colleague and end up talking about things work related, and that is work as well. Um, so yeah. Of course it depends on I cannot say that like while I was in the game industry, I would work. Oh, that was a lot of time working, and I had some colleagues that would work every weekend. Uh, okay, and there the managers there or they would never tell them to not do it. That was 5 years ago, so I don't know how it's now there. But that was my experience, the experience I saw. At Google, I know there is a lot of concern of please go home or please stop. So well-being is very important. Like during this COVID time, that has been very, very, very. I'm very happy about with the manager I have at the moment and with the experience of being here during this time, because I felt very well taken care of. Uh, yeah, that depends on the company. I don't want to say that Google is paradise because yeah, but I'm happy now. So yeah, I don't know if that answers. So how does being on call work? Like, does that happen with you or on your team? So not on my team. So we don't have on call, uh, which does not mean that I mean, we've done some bugs that can be bad for users because Chrome is used by a lot of people. So it's very easy that there is some use case that you can break easily. What we have is we call Chromium sheriffing. So all that can be searched on Google. You can search Chromium sheriffing. So that is just that for a day you are on top of the work on the tip on tree on the tree that is all the other Chrome developers are working with, and to see if there is some critical CL that is breaking something substantial in the testing infrastructure that we have. So just for a day, I spend like this 8 hours that I work that day just paying attention to the build system to see if it's not broken. And if something breaks it, just revert instantly. Uh, I know other teams they have on call. At Google, even there is the specific position of site reliability engineers, which they have. Their work is for a certain amount of hours at time. Their work is to be on call, it depends a lot. I'm sorry that depends is the answer, but I know that some of them can get some. They can request to have some money back for the extra hours if they were on call and they were pinged, or they can more holidays. They can take more days off. It depends a bit. So with me and my team, that doesn't happen, and I'm very happy about that. But yeah, cool. So I don't know if there are more questions. If there are, feel free to drop me an email. I'm more than happy to reply when it will be Monday afternoon, and I will be back at replying emails. So yeah, I hope it was useful for you. It was a pleasure, and yeah, just go ahead and please find community and find mentors. And if you're starting university, do things there because I think it's through other people that we will learn the most, and you can give back to people as well. So yeah, cool. So thank you. Have a good end of the day and a good week ahead. Bye.